She pointed at him to get up, her voice cold, sharp, no hesitation. "That's not your seat, sir." The entire cabin turned to look. An old man, silver hair, holding a boarding pass and shaking hands. But she didn't move, didn't blink. A young flight attendant rushed over. "Sir, we need you to switch to a seat in the back." He looked up slowly. Didn't argue, didn't raise his voice. Just handed her his ticket, 11C. A window seat, reserved 3 months ago, because his back hurts. He needs a stretch. The flight attendant glanced around nervously. "If you don't move, we can't close the doors." Nobody said a word. Nobody stood up for him. He rose, shoulders trembling slightly, and walked down the aisle, each step slower than the last. She slid into his seat like she won something. Unwrapped gum, opened her phone, started a live stream. "Boomer causing drama, just got kicked, LOL." People laughed, no shame. Nobody looked at him again. Nobody asked. Nobody cared. Seat 32B, right next to the bathroom. Cramped, no window. He sat down, alone. Didn't complain, didn't blame, didn't even turn his head. But 9 minutes later, the cockpit door opened. The captain stepped out, face unreadable. He walked the full length of the cabin, stopped at row 32, looked the old man in the eyes. The man stood like a soldier, saluted instinctively. Then came the words, clear and steady. "On behalf of the airline, I owe you an apology." The cabin fell silent. You could hear hearts pounding. No one expected it. No one knew what to say. But that moment, that single act of respect, that changed everything. In this story, it's only just getting started. Raymond Clark sat quietly in the corner of his seat. His hands rested gently on his knees, just like always. His back was slightly hunched, worn down by time, but his eyes still clear, still sharp. He looked out the window. Blue skies, still air, a quiet April morning at Tucson International. Passengers hurried through the gate with rolling bags. Some were rushing, some had headphones on. But Raymond, he just watched, didn't move, didn't speak. He'd arrived 2 hours early, not because he feared being late, but because that's what old folks do. Better early so no one's bothered on their account. He wore a simple striped shirt, a faded khaki jacket worn down by the years, and a baseball cap with frayed red stitching, Air Force Engineering, 1969. No one noticed, no one cared. In his hand, he held his boarding pass, seat 11C, exit row, extra legroom. Reserved weeks ago because of his back, he needed the space to stretch. This flight, it wasn't for a vacation, it was for a funeral. The last surviving member of his old unit, the man he once pulled from a burning helicopter, gone now. This trip had no hope, just a final goodbye, a nod to the ones who never came home, and maybe, just maybe, a chance to say the thank you he never managed back then. Raymond inhaled slowly, exhaled even slower. His hands trembled slightly from the morning cold. But he never complained, never asked for much. He didn't want pity. All he wanted was the seat he paid for. And that seat was near the aisle with space to breathe. The gate opened. He stood slowly, picked up his cloth bag. Inside, just the essentials: meds, wallet, handkerchief. He walked with steady, patient steps. An older flight attendant smiled at him warmly. "Have a nice flight, sir." He nodded, no words. Boarding the plane was stepping into another world. Bright lights, tight aisles, people squeezing past one another. Raymond stepped aside to let a woman with a baby go first. He never rushed, never needed to. When he reached row 11, he paused. There, already seated, was a young blonde woman, legs crossed, phone in hand. She was live streaming. Comments zipped across her screen. She laughed, speaking into her phone. "No one on this flight is dressed as fly as me." Raymond spoke gently. "Excuse me, miss, I believe that's my seat." She looked up, scanned him top to bottom. "This one I already sat down, old man." He pointed at his ticket. Still crisp, still clear. 11C, exit row, reserved it 2 months ago. She smirked, didn't move. Typical Boomer, always about being on time. Some passengers chuckled quietly. No one stood up. No one said a thing. Raymond just stood there, didn't get angry, just sighed. A young flight attendant approached. She gave a small bow of her head and whispered softly, "Sir, would you mind moving to the back? There's an open seat, though it's near the restroom." Raymond looked her in the eye. "I have back problems. This is a medical seat. I need space to stretch." She hesitated, then glanced toward the young woman. "She's live streaming," she said awkwardly. "She needs better lighting and better background." If you don't agree, the flight might be delayed. Now all eyes turned to Raymond. Someone behind him let out an audible sigh. The girl kept smirking, fingers tapping on her phone. Boomer drama, holding up the whole flight. Raymond adjusted the strap on his bag, turned around slowly. No arguing, no fight. Just another time he was told to move aside. He walked down the aisle, head slightly lowered. His eyes met a few passengers. They glanced, then looked away. No one said a word. Seat 32B, middle seat. On one side, a young man with headphones on. On the other, a businessman half asleep in a wrinkled suit. Raymond sat down, held his bag close to his chest, rested his head against the seat, closed his eyes. He tried to stretch, but his knees hit the seat in front. Pain shot up his spine. Still no sound, no one noticed, no one cared. And it seemed like that would be the end of it, until the cockpit door swung open. The cockpit door swung open decisively. A sharp click echoed down the aisle. Heads turned, whispers started. A man in uniform stepped out, flight captain's stripes shining on his shoulders, his face calm but unreadable. Nobody said a word. The cabin froze. He started walking toward the center aisle. His eyes scanned every row. Someone in the front whispered, "That's the captain. Why is he out here?" But he didn't stop, didn't explain, didn't hesitate. He moved with purpose and stopped at row 32, where Raymond Clark sat hunched and quiet. A spotlight from the overhead lights hit his shoulders. Raymond opened his eyes, looked up slowly. For a moment, two men locked eyes. No one knew what was happening. Then the captain stood at full attention, raised his hand in a sharp salute. A perfect military salute. Precise, respectful, powerful. The entire cabin fell silent. Breath held. Even the girl live streaming lowered her phone. Raymond sat frozen, unsure what to say. "Are you Raymond Clark?" the captain asked, his voice deep, steady. "Yes," Raymond replied softly. "That's me. I'm Sam Beckett, former combat pilot. You worked on the F-16 program, didn't you?" Raymond nodded, confused. "Yes, I did. I flew one of your birds," Captain Beckett said. "And I made it home because of people like you." Raymond's eyes welled slightly. He didn't blink. Captain Beckett turned to face the cabin. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said clearly, "I apologize for the delay. But I could not sit in that cockpit knowing that a man like Mr. Clark was treated that way on this flight." His voice was firm, not loud, but it echoed with weight. No one should be pushed to the back of a plane for a live stream, especially not someone who served this country. Soft murmurs rippled through the cabin. The man in the suit looked down at his shoes. The kid with headphones pulled them off slowly. Captain Beckett looked at the young flight attendant. "Seat 1A is open, correct?" She nodded, pale and speechless. "Then escort Mr. Clark to the front, now." Raymond blinked, stammered. "That's not necessary." "It is," Captain Beckett interrupted gently. "It's the right thing to do." He extended his hand, helped Raymond rise. The cabin watched in still silence. Every step the old man took was met with quiet respect. The man in the window seat stood up. "Sir, I'm sorry. I didn't know." Raymond just nodded. No anger, no bitterness. Just kept walking, calm, steady. As he passed the midsection, a man touched his own chest and gave a quiet, wordless salute. A woman bowed her head. Another passenger gave a soft clap. Then another, and another. A ripple of gentle applause spread through the cabin. No cheering, no shouting, just heartfelt honor. Raymond took his seat in 1A, didn't say a word, just exhaled. For the first time in many years, he didn't feel invisible anymore. Raymond sat quietly in seat 1A, plenty of space, legs fully stretched, soft pillow. The window shade swayed gently. An older flight attendant brought him a drink. "I'm so sorry, sir. I hope you're more comfortable now." Raymond nodded, still didn't say much. Captain Beckett turned slowly down the aisle. Just as he began to walk away, someone spoke up. "I know him. I know Raymond Clark." The voice came from row 5, right side. A middle-aged man stood up, shaved head, plain hoodie. "You taught me back in Fort Worth," he said, "when I was in the aviation mechanics program." Heads turned again. The cabin held its breath. He took one step forward. "I'm James. I was a sergeant back then. You probably don't remember me, but you were the only one who believed I had a future. Because of you, I got my degree. Because of you, I'm now lead engineer at my firm." His voice shook, but his eyes lit up. He turned to Raymond, bowed deeply. "Thank you for not giving up on me." Raymond gave a slight nod, said nothing, but his hand tightened into a soft fist, trying to hold down what was rising in his chest. From the middle row, a young woman turned. the one who had been live streaming earlier. She still held her phone, but now it was lowered. I didn't know who you were. I just thought I had more right to that seat. I was wrong. A single tear slipped down her cheek. She didn't turn the camera back on. Nobody laughed. Nobody pulled out their phone. Everyone just paused. The plane hadn't taken off yet, but no one was impatient. No one complained. Captain Beckett returned to the cockpit. A moment later, his voice came through the intercom, calm, steady, resolute. Ladies and gentlemen, before we depart, I have something to say. This morning's delay was not due to weather, not due to a mechanical issue. It was because we failed something basic. We put convenience above dignity, and we pushed aside a man who deserved respect. On behalf of the entire crew, and on behalf of Horizon Jet, we take full responsibility. And from now on my watch, no one will be forced to the back, just because they're too quiet to demand what's fair. My name is Captain Sam Beckett, former United States Air Force officer, and I do not fly this plane while justice remains silent. A wave of applause filled the cabin. No one started it, but it grew soft, steady, powerful. Raymond looked out the window. The sky was still blue, but something in the air had shifted. For the first time in many years, he felt truly at peace. Not because of first class, not because of apologies, but because finally, after all this time, he knew he hadn't been forgotten. The plane took off nearly 30 minutes late, but no one complained, no one sighed, no one rushed. They knew they had just witnessed something rare, a moment you don't need to record to remember for a lifetime. Raymond sat quietly in seat 1A. His legs were finely stretched out. One hand rested on a soft cream napkin. On the tray table, a cup of hot tea steamed gently. He didn't sleep, didn't read, just stared straight ahead, still like a living monument. Then the head flight attendant returned with an envelope. "Mr. Clark, this just arrived. I believe it might be important." Raymond blinked, surprised. He had never received mail mid-flight. He opened it. The paper was thick, ivory-colored, embossed. At the top, it read, "Department of Defense Office of Historical Record." He took a deep breath. His hands trembled slightly. The letter began, "Dear Engineer Raymond Clark, upon reviewing archive materials, we discovered a commendation letter dated 1974 that was never delivered." Raymond froze. His hands shook as he turned the page. The second sheet, thin but bold in print, was a copy from a classified file, signed by Lieutenant General Charles M. Gordon. It read, "Engineer Raymond Clark directly prevented a catastrophic failure, saving the F-4 crew stationed at Elgin Base. His quick thinking and design intervention saved the lives of 4 pilots. He was to receive a medal in the next cycle, but that next cycle never came." Raymond stared at the faded words. In the corner, a faint water stain. Sent in 1974, but it had taken nearly 5 decades to reach him. A young officer had once made a promise, but war, time, and bureaucracy buried that promise in silence. A woman sat quietly in a row behind him. Her name was Melissa Dawn, a senior defense policy analyst. She was the one who made the call, the one who reopened the file, the one who dug up the forgotten commendation, the one who emailed the Secretary of Defense, the one who made sure this letter made it onto the plane. No one clapped. No one stood. They didn't need to, because some moments are meant to be honored in silence. And in that stillness, Raymond Clark looked down at the old letter, then folded it carefully, laid it beside his worn wristwatch. He didn't say a word, but something had shifted in his eyes. No more distance, no more doubt, just a deep, quiet peace. The plane glided through soft white clouds. Sunlight sparkled across the windowpane. No one knew what would come next, but everyone knew they'd just learned something that mattered. Not about aviation, not about engineering, but about people, about how we treat the quiet ones, because sometimes they're the very ones who kept the world from falling apart. The flight touched down in Atlanta near noon. The cabin door opened slowly, silently. No rush, no pushing, no noise. Raymond rose from seat 1A slowly. He held his worn cloth bag in one hand, eyes forward, back straight. Captain Beckett waited at the exit. He bowed his head in one final salute. "Thank you for flying with us, Mr. Clark." Raymond didn't speak, but he placed a firm hand on Beckett's shoulder. A quiet squeeze. No words needed. The young flight attendant from earlier bowed deeply. She couldn't bring herself to meet Raymond's gaze. He didn't scold her, didn't even glance her way. He just walked straight off the plane. At the baggage claim, someone was already waiting. A woman older than Raymond by a few years. She held a small sign, R. Clark. When she saw him, she smiled gently, a smile that trembled at the edges. "You're still as punctual as ever," she said. "I'm Carol, Sam's wife. You know he passed last month." Raymond nodded, eyes drifting down to the floor. "I'm nearly 50 years late, but I still made it." Carol wrapped him in a long embrace. No one watched, but everyone nearby felt something shift. They walked out together to the parking lot. Atlanta's sun was warmer than Tucson's. On the car's windshield, taped gently, was an old black and white photograph. Sam and Raymond, in uniform, standing beside a vintage aircraft, laughing, eyes bright, arms around each other. Carol pointed at the photo. "Sam kept this in his garage for 40 years, she said. "He always said, that man beside me is the one I trust most in this life." Raymond pressed his lips together, said nothing. He sat down in the car quietly, one hand resting gently on his knee. That afternoon, the memorial was simple. No trumpets, no speakers, no ceremony. Just a few old veterans in the front row. One held a folded flag, another played harmonica, slow, soft, haunting. Raymond stood beside the casket, in his hand a folded letter in thirds. The lost letter. He didn't read it aloud, just leaned close and whispered, "Sam, it finally made it. Late, but still in time." When the service ended, a boy approached slowly. In his hand, a blue paper airplane. "Are you Mr. Raymond?" the boy asked. "I want to be a pilot just like you." Raymond knelt, placed a hand gently on the boy's shoulder. "Don't be like me," he said softly. "Be better than me." 3 weeks later, Raymond returned to Tucson. The small house looked just the same. The stone walls cast gentle shadows in the afternoon light. The old folding chair on the porch had faded with time. He sat down, slowly, warm tea in hand. An old cat jumped into his lap. Its name was Boots, 10 years at his side. That day, Raymond opened a thick envelope. It came from the Federal Veterans Affairs Office. Inside, a formal certificate confirming his medal and a short handwritten note. "Mr. Clark, we apologize for the delay. Some people should never be forgotten. You are one of them." Raymond set the letter beside an old photo frame. A snapshot from 1972. Him and the engineering crew. All young, all full of hope. And now only he remained, still living, still remembering. That weekend, his granddaughter came by. 8th grade, big eyes, endless curiosity. "Grandpa, I saw you on the internet." Everyone at school shared the captain's video. Our teacher even played it in civics class. Raymond chuckled a full laugh for the first time in a long time. She sat beside him, curious, bright. "Are you happy?" she asked. Raymond didn't answer right away. He sipped his tea, looked out into the horizon. Then he spoke soft and clear. "I don't need applause. I just needed someone to see me the way you're looking at me now. That's enough." That night, Raymond opened his journal. He wrote a single line. No date, no signature. "Not everyone who stands still is invisible." Life lesson. There are people in this world who move quietly. They don't demand attention. They don't speak loudly. But that doesn't mean they're any less deserving. We live in noisy times where the loudest voices often get the spotlight. But sometimes the most powerful truth is spoken in silence. The silence of those who held this nation steady. The ones who did the right thing, then stepped quietly aside. We may not remember all their names, but we can do something simple. We can see them. We can acknowledge them. We can choose not to look away. So today, if you cross paths with someone quiet, don't rush to judge. Take a moment to listen, because you just might be standing next to a hero.